A standoff between police and protesters turning violent in Hong Kong. The 5-month turmoil taking its toll on one of the world's largest financial capitals, now officially falling into a recession for the first time in a decade. But there may be hope for the freedom fighters. Today, 3 Republican United States senators put forth new legislation against China's actions in Hong Kong. Florida Senator Rick Scott is one of them, and he joins us now. Senator, thanks for coming in. I applaud you for this, Senator. I mean, you know, your heart goes out to these people and all those who are fighting for freedom in Hong Kong. But it just seems that the Chinese Communist government is hell-bent to do anything they want, no matter what anybody says or does, to put down this dissent.
I think you said it right. The first thing we all have to acknowledge is it's communist China. They're not our friend. They've clearly become our adversary, and they're clearly an adversary against the citizens of Hong Kong. The citizens of Hong Kong were promised rights in 1984 and then in 1997 when it was turned over to communist China. So my bill today says that if you're taking away the rights of Hong Kong citizens, whether you're if you're in Hong Kong or in mainland China, we're going to sanction you. We have got as Americans to stand up for the basic rights of Hong Kong citizens. I was the first senator to go over there. I met with protesters. I met with business leaders. I met with religious leaders. And it's disgusting what President Xi is doing in communist China to take away their rights.
Senator, it would be easier for some of us to support some of these endeavors wholeheartedly if there was a feeling that this principle of supporting human rights was global and that you were standing up for multiple countries and multiple citizens in multiple countries, like in Egypt, like in Saudi Arabia, where there are egregious human rights abuses, but for reasons of politics and realist politics and our own strategic interests, we do not make a huge deal of it, although we absolutely could. So why are you not applying similar principles globally?
Sure. Well, I've been up here 10 months, and the first place I really put a lot of effort into was Venezuela. What Maduro's doing down there, that's absolutely committing genocide against his citizens. I've been down to the border and met with families. They can't get food and water and medicine, things like that. We have, millions of people have already fled Venezuela. But we have legislation that says we can sanction people that are taking away human rights. We've got the Magnitsky Act. But right now, I think what I'm focused on is Hong Kong and what Communist China is doing. If you look at Communist China right now, let's think about all the things they're doing. They don't allow us to sell our products. It's a violation of WTO. They steal our technology. They have 1 million people in prison just because of their religion. They're intentionally selling fentanyl in this country to kill American citizens. They're helping Maduro commit genocide in Venezuela. The leadership, President Xi, the leadership in Communist China is not. There are human rights violators.
So let me ask you, and thank you for being with us. Is the president helping or hurting when he refers to President Xi as his friend? Is he kind of playing good cop to your bad cop in this situation? And is he helping or hurting the plight of protesters in Hong Kong, sir?
Well, look, I think the president would like to get a trade deal done with Communist China. I know I was talking to the president today and to Vice President Pence today. Vice President Pence spoke about Hong Kong last week. They know that it's bigger than a trade deal. I think everybody's optimistic that something good would happen with Communist China. I'm not very optimistic right now. If we're going to do a trade deal with Communist China, then we've got to have the teeth to enforce it. Whether it's liquidated damage clauses, whether it's some way that we can enforce that they're going to do their job. Quit being a human rights violator. Quit being the world's worst polluter. Let the people out of prison that you're holding over just our religion on top of the trade issues. So
not going to happen, Senator. No. Not going to happen. You know that.
Senator, can I ask a different question?
Sure.
It seemed I saw a headline from one of the British papers saying that Britain was basically telling the demonstrators to kind of be quiet and go home, also asking the police in Hong Kong to kind of ratchet it down a notch. I guess the question to you is, are our allies on board with this, in particular the British, who obviously have much more at stake here than most foreign countries?
I think most people would like the protests to be peaceful. unfortunately, the Hong Kong government has said that all protests basically are illegal. They're not allowing people to do peaceful protests, and that's actually a given right in their basic rights there, like a right to a lawyer, which they're not providing. So I think all of us would like the protests to be peaceful. Unfortunately, here's what I mean. Think about what the police are doing over there. In a peaceful protest, they're taking tear gas canisters, and they're about this big, and they're metal, and they're shooting them down at the protesters. They're just peacefully protesting. They're shooting rubber disc at people at close range, along with beanbags to hurt these protesters. So the Hong Kong police are being very, very violent, and the Hong Kong authorities will not do an independent investigation of the police because they know the truth. The truth is that police are doing the wrong things.
Senator, we wish we had more time. I know it's a long shot, but we do wish you that. I mean, if you're successful, that could be nothing but good for the United States and for the world as a whole. Thank you very much for being here, Senator. Appreciate it.
Thank you.